Hello, as you already gathered from the title of the video, I'm going to talk about pen turning and my beginner's journey through what I've discovered as to pen turning. I'm no expert, but this is just a beginning point for possibly questions that I certainly had, and also I'm sure anybody who's considered pen turning or started out in pen turning has asked the question. I'm just hoping to answer some of them, show some of the things that I've found to make life a bit easier, different approaches to the same problem. So hopefully you will enjoy this and you'll stick with me. So here we go. So the first step really is so I have got a couple of pieces there, which is mahogany, and these are spalted horse chestnut. So obviously you've got to cut them to a given length. The nearer to the brass tube you can get it, you spend less time tidying that end up. I have a jig. It is taken from I think his name Bob at RJB Woodturner on YouTube. This is my adaptation of it. Just fits on the bandsaw. This slides is just a stop. Right. There we go. To depending on how long your brass tube is. So I will set it up and I'll show you how it works. Right, so with the cut line, which is my bandsaw blade obviously, I line it up so that I've just got a bit of room there. I can slide the stop up to the other side of it and tighten it up. So let's just double check that. That's a bit big actually. Let's move up a little bit nearer. I think I'll leave about a 16th-ish, but yeah, that pushes up against there, and that will be just long enough, just about right. So all you're then doing is putting your pen blank against the wood. That's how much you need. You don't need much more than that. I'll carry on and cut the rest, and I shall be back. And there you go. They are the horse chestnut, all nicely cut up, and the mahogany. Also a couple of little beech ones as well. So when it comes to the drilling, what I found is that you are better actually if you cut the blank square or squarish. I'm only doing them on the bandsaw, so they're not super square. It does help for finding the centre. There are two trains of thought for drilling them. One is on the lathe with some pen jaws, which I haven't got, but I've got the smallest set on the Record Power jaws. You can do them on the drill press. I started out by doing them on the lathe, but I found it to be at times frustrating winding the handle back on the tailstock, and it wasn't for me. So again, I went back onto YouTube and found a simple clamp with some 45-degree notches cut into them, which I think is better. Now I'll show you on the lathe, and then I'll do one on the drill press as well. Right, so I use these two pieces of horse chestnut, And these are the Record Power 12mm, I think they are. You can just put that in there, tighten it up a little bit, and away you go. This is being drilled at a 410 RPM. Yeah, that's doing it on the lathe. So your other option compared to the lathe is to do it on the drill press. Now this is a design that I've seen on YouTube in many guises. It just opens out, it's hinged off, a couple of a hinge off there, and there's 3 different depths. They are actually formed by turning these both 90 degrees and tipping the table saw blade over at 45 degrees and just cutting them like that. So it's not rocket science. One thing that I have actually done with mine is not only put it on a base so I can clamp it down to the table of the drill press. This is fixed to the base, but what I've also done, as you can see from the gap here on this one, is what I found is that when you're obviously drilling, you make sawdust, and what do? We all blow it, or with an air gun, or just simply blow it ourselves. And this way, with a gap underneath, there's somewhere for the sawdust to get out and doesn't then get trapped as you then close this back up. Also, I'll try and show you how it clamped up. So that goes in there like so, and then with a little squeeze clamp over the top, just to, you don't need much pressure, just a little bit. That is not going anywhere. To get all your pen blanks the same size, you only need to set this up once on the drill press, and then you can just rattle through them. Take that out, take one out, put the next one in, and away you go. That's another reason why I prefer to do it on the drill press. Just easier, I think, personally. Still not in the centre, but there again, neither was it square. But for what we're trying to do, that's more than good enough. It's easier to clear the swarf with the drill press than the lathe. One thing that you've got to do before you epoxy these into wood is, you can see these are lovely, nice and shiny, and they've got a lacquer finish on them. You need to rough these up with some sandpaper. Yes, you can stand here and do all this business, but I found a slightly different version. If you've invested in the pen turning arbor, which as you can see I did, I think this was about £20. Nice and simple, 2 Morse taper. So if you slide, I can get 3 on, just about, and then bring your tailstock up. Just got a bit of, I think this is 120ish, feels like it. Quick. That's it. That's all it needs. One other little thought that I've forgotten is that if you do have a grain match on these, a mark, just so that you know that that really wants to be the middle of your pen. So now we can take our sanded tubes, mix up a little bit of epoxy, push it in, twist it. As you can see, I haven't actually done anything this end, but if you then put it in from the other end, this is a bit of milk bottle HDPE, which I've just turned, and nothing sticks to HDPE, so you can just push it in so that it's short. There's a bit of something there to work to, and that's that one done. Don't know whether you'll be able to see that, but it's a bit that end and a bit of a gap that end as well. That's why this is quite useful. There we go. So, looks pretty horrible, but with the next jig we should be good to go. We need to tidy these ends up. Now what you could do with the mitre jig like this one, just put it in there and butt it up against the mitre across the face. The only thing is that, I mean, mine are certainly not square, but who's to say that they are in the right place? If you then do it off the tube, the outside isn't important, which it isn't anyway. So this is a bit of an idea taken from somebody else and a bit of mine as well, which is just a simple block clamped to the mitre jig with a 6.2 drilled hole and the 6.2 drill. Now I've checked, this is pretty square to this, pretty square, but then it is also square that way on there. There we go. With that mounted on there, if you clean up the face, that is done true to the inside of the tube, which will eventually be mounted onto the pen turning arbor, so everything becomes square. So all I've done, or all I do, hopefully you can see some of this, is to push that against there, cross, turn it, cross, keep turning, till eventually we see the tube, the nice shiny tube. There is why you don't need to cut these too long. There's the other end. That is now the correct length to the tube, and the two faces are also square to the tube. Hopefully with this angle you can see a bit better. Right, so where are we? Now you can see that's the other of the two. Neither end has been done. There you go. This is why the first step of cutting on pays dividends now, because you haven't got to trim off so much and it's just a lot quicker. So now that we have got our ends all nicely cleaned up and squared up to the tube itself, we can actually start doing a little bit of turning. So I've only ever done slimline pens, so there's one with the mark. So these bushings are 8.5mm diameter, which is the I think the standard for slimline pens. So you have one at this end, one in the middle and one on the outside. And the way to stop these obviously moving is with tailstock support. I've chosen to use the Axminster compression tailstock support, which is just a spinning item, and it goes you just pinch it. Shouldn't need much. There we go. And that's it. So everything moves. You can go off the have a 60-degree cone in the back of the pen mandrel as well if you wish, but you just need to bulk it out a little bit further to do that. This is a bit more of an expense, but I just thought it doesn't matter how long you have anything then, and it all works. So that was my personal choice. So we finally get to do a bit of turning. Now my weapon of choice is Skew. This is a little 1/2 inch Skew. You could do it with a spindle gouge, you could probably even do it with a bowl gouge, but a bit big. But this is where you get to see how little of the pen you actually do end up using, and why generally as a rule these not being square doesn't really matter too much. Let's get some turning done. You can pretty well, within reason, do whatever shape you like. I like this where there's a bit of a bulbous part here, and the same on this. I'm intending this to be the nib end, and obviously the back end. Yeah, time for sanding. Normally I wouldn't bother showing sanding, but there is a little technique with this that a big help, so I'll include it. Right, so I'm sanding at a speed of about 1000 RPM, and because I've used the Skew chisel, these are fairly good, very pleased with them. So I'm going to start with 180, but because we're running at a fast speed, it's just a very light pressure back and forward. So I'll try and show you. Right, once you're happy with that, now with exactly the same grit that we've just used, which in my case was 180, you just want to go lightly with the grain. Bit of 240. And that should be your sanding all done. So on to the next stage. So the first thing I do after sanding is just try and clean the grain with denatured alcohol or methylated spirits. Just depends on which side of the pond you're on. Grab what little shavings there are and just burnish it. The difference in feel and shine is amazing. I didn't believe it. These instructions that I'm passing on are from an article by Phil Dart at Beaufort Inc. There's a PDF that you can download. I think it's off their website. If you follow the steps, it works. So next step is some sand and sealer. Now I'm just using Hampshire Sheen. I would think the pre-thinned is better personally, but I don't know for definite because I haven't got anything else, so I can't compare it. Work it in with the grain I'll give it a quick burnish. So the next stage is to apply it with this. This is the Chestnut Melamine lacquer. Don't shake anything, just open the tin. If you shake it, all you'll do is introduce air bubbles, which is not what we want. I'm applying it with a bit of kitchen roll, but then at the same time you also want a bit of scrunched up cloth. Now this again is the Chestnut safety cloth. Bear with me and you'll see how this works. So with the lathe running, haven't changed the speed. Yep, we're getting a shine. Just once you start feeling it drag is when you are supposed to switch cloths. Third application of this is done with the lathe off. Once you start feeling it drag, it's time to stop and burnish. So the final step, Carnuaba wax. Nice hard stick. This is again Chestnut's own. But this time we whack the speed right up. We're now at the point of assembly, and again, like the drilling of pen blanks, you've got two choices of where to assemble them. You can do them on the lathe. You need to turn, in my case at least, a couple of tapered parts. This one is HDPE, which is milk bottles again, and this one was a bit of ash. Now this one has, hopefully just about see that, just a little dimple there, which is the centre. Pushes into there, and that one goes into there. And there you go, after a bit of fiddle. So for the drill press I've done almost the same thing, but obviously not a taper, just a bit of ash turned down, nothing fancy. Just cove this out a little bit, but nothing too much. And that just goes in the drill press. And that's it. And what I've got this time is again another nib, and this one's the mahogany. So we can do the same example. There we go, that was a better look. That's gone in. There you go. For the two options, I prefer the drill press. One of the reasons why is that it means you can have the lathe set and then still come over here and do this. But both work. They're both a little bit fiddly, just trying to get them lined up. So there's our beech, mahogany and horse chestnut. So hope you enjoy. So there you have it. This is what I've found. I'm no expert. All I'm trying to do is gather as much information in one place as possible for the new pen turner, which is what I am in truth. Sometimes it's scattered all over the place. There's some good ideas in there, maybe some not quite some good ideas, but also the thing to remember in this is it's an expensive branch of wood turning. I mean, the mandrel can be, you could spend £50 on a pen mandrel and the compression thing, but then everything else I've tried to make myself because it just keeps the prices down. If you eventually want to get really into pen turning, then you can go to a pen press. You might want to, I mean, they're crazy prices, but there you go, that's your choice. But I'm just trying to show you the cheap way to start, at least, and have a go. It's just my way of looking at things. If I really get into something, I'll probably spend the money on it. I might not. I quite like these slimline pens. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I think that we're getting a bit long on this video, so hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you stayed with me to the end, and hopefully you liked it. So thanks very much for watching. Take care. Cheers.